He was a sort of informal advisor. As things got worse for the Liberals, and as the rumors grew that he was interested in maybe being even prime minister one day, there was a real effort to bring him into the Liberal fold. So they said, well, hey, why don't you take on an advisory role? You can give us some advice officially.
So the race is on for the Liberal Party leader and interim Prime Minister of Canada. Mark Carney, Chrystia Freeland, and Karina Gould. Now, in the past, I've said that I believe Mark Carney is 75% likely to win and Chrystia Freeland is only 25% likely to win. But after what we've seen over the past couple of days, I think that that's starting to become a little bit more 50-50. In no chance ever is Karina Gould going to win. I don't think any single members of parliament have supported her in this. None of them have said we endorse you. In fact, all of the Liberal MPs have been flocking to Mark Carney. And that's what we're going to be taking a look at the start of this video is who is Mark Carney? And then towards the end of the video, we actually have some breaking news. Justin Trudeau is being taken to court for his sort of illegal prorogation, which is very unusual because prorogation is used in certain circumstances where when the government's pushed against a corner, whoever's controlling government, that's when they prorogue. Stephen Harper did it many, many times. But this case is different. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video, everybody. Before we get into it, I do want to encourage you all to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. It does really help grow the channel. We got to talk about protecting ourselves physically, protecting ourselves mentally, but also protecting ourselves online. And that's the perfect introduction to today's sponsor. I'd like to thank today's sponsor, Private Internet Access. We've teamed up together and we're offering my audience 83% off for using code SUNSHINE, which can be found linked down below in the description or the pinned comment below. It's no surprise that we're living in a time of censorship, and Canada is unfortunately leading that race because of Justin Trudeau. Now, Justin Trudeau wants to make sure that you can't see the news. He wants to make sure that you can't see certain content on streaming platforms like Netflix, Hulu, Crave, and you shouldn't have Disney Plus because, of course, our finance minister said if you can't afford things, you should cancel Disney Plus. So the way around this is through a VPN such as Private Internet Access. Now, for those who don't know what a VPN is, it's a way to encrypt your data, basically putting a cloak over you so that you can freely browse the internet without feeling like your personal information is at risk or the government getting and selling your personal information. And the best way that I like to go about this, the best cloak that I like to put over myself is Private Internet Access, which again can be found linked down below in the description or the pinned comment below for 83% off. Thank you, Private Internet Access, for sponsoring this video. Now, without further ado, let's get into the start of this video, kicking things off with Mark Carney. Who is he? He went from banker to prime minister hopeful. That's a pretty big jump. And for those that don't know, because he was the Bank of Canada governor, he's actually on our money. There's a signature, and we might take a look at it right now. There's a signature block from 2008 to 2013 when he was the Bank of Canada governor, or whatever the heck the title's called, where he actually had to sign off on all the bills. I mean, it's printed on, but yeah, he's on our money. That's kind of weird. That's very elitist, but hey, don't worry. He's just a regular guy, he likes to say.
He just made it official. He'll compete to become the next leader of the Liberal Party, which means, if successful, he takes Justin Trudeau's place as Prime Minister.
I'm back home in Edmonton to declare my candidacy for leader of the Liberal Party and Prime Minister of Canada.
But what's interesting is that even before he announced, the world was already talking about him.
Mr. Carney.
Mark Carney. Mark Carney.
And since the day Justin Trudeau announced his resignation, Mark Carney was a favorite to replace him. The favorite, depending on who you read. Rock star economist Mark Carney, a frontrunner. The Liberal leadership is Mark Carney's to lose. And a recent Leger poll suggested, among Liberals, he's the one to beat. A 6-point lead over his next closest competitor. And if you really want to know who's most likely to win, just look at who the party's enemies are attacking.
Mark Carney, carbon tax Carney.
So what explains Carney's rise in a party he's not even an elected member of?
You want an outsider.
Carney referred to himself in the segment as an outsider in Canada's.
So when you look at like the World Economic Forum, right? Justin Trudeau is controlled by the World Economic Forum. And the best way to kind of understand Mark Carney is he is the World Economic Forum. He's the final boss. He's the big boy. He's the hot shot. All right. He's stepping in now to fix what the WEF employees like Justin Trudeau and Chrystia Freeland have done. He's coming in to try to take more control of Canada. He's a scary guy. Very, very scary guy because he doesn't have as bad of a reputation as our federal MPs. He doesn't have that political baggage that carries with him.
It's political realm.
And please welcome to the program Mark Carney. I welcome you to our land, America.
A big part of understanding Mark Carney's momentum among Liberals starts with understanding how people even know him to begin with. As the governor of the Bank of Canada, named by Stephen Harper's Conservative government during the worst economic catastrophe of a generation.
The crash of September 2008 brought the largest bankruptcies in world history.
The 2008 financial crisis was the deepest global recession since the Great Depression in the 1930s. And it was during this time of subprime mortgages, the housing bubble, banking collapses, mass unemployment, trillions of dollars of global wealth wiped out, that Mark Carney's star really rose.
Businesses should not be afraid of their banks. They should be bringing ideas and opportunities to their banks.
At the time, Mark Carney's whole job was monetary policy. And one of his early moves as the head of the Bank of Canada, while the world was burning around him, was to aggressively cut interest rates. Within a month of becoming governor, Carney slashed the bank's key rate by a half point. This was the biggest single move swing the Bank of Canada had executed in years. He would do that again about a month and a half later, and shortly after Lehman Brothers in the US declared bankruptcy, the climax of the crisis, Carney would cut the rate a third time. By now, a total of 1.5 percentage points from where he had started. The idea was to stimulate the economy, get people borrowing and spending at a time when consumer confidence had been shattered. Other central
Does that sound familiar? It feels like we're living through those times right now. And the current governor of the Bank of Canada, Tiff Macklem, has been doing the same thing. He's been doing the exact same thing. He's been cutting massive amounts, trying to bring interest rates down, trying to get people to borrow more money and spend more money. But I don't know if it's going to have the same effect that it did. I have no idea because wages haven't gone up at all. So people aren't making more money.
Bankers were doing this too. The US Federal Reserve also cut rates aggressively, but not everyone did. While Canada's rates were being cut over and over again, the European Central Bank, their rate actually rose until they got the idea. Drastic cuts were needed. That's the difference Carney's supporters point to, while other central bankers were criticized for being too conservative. Also, too uncommunicative. Another major shift in Bank of Canada policy was how Carney talked to Canadians.
The notion for the central banks, both the Bank of Canada and pretty much every central bank around the world, is they would tell you on the occasion of their meetings what they were going to do right then and there, end of sentence. And that was over. And they really gave no hint about what they had in mind in the future. And that was the situation up to when Mark Carney was the governor.
It's easy to understate how unconventional this was at the time. This idea that central banks didn't just have the lever of interest rates to change the course of the economy. They could also just say their expectations out loud. And that in itself could alter the course of an economy.
And by changing the nature of the communications, the Bank of Canada and other central banks gave a greater degree of confidence. You're going to be able to borrow money cheaply for quite some time.
Now, there's obviously...
That is exactly what they are trying to do right now, man. That's exactly, they're lowering rates in huge leaps, and they're just trying to do the exact same thing that Mark Carney did. And this is why Mark Carney is a top candidate right now, is because we are still in a huge financial crisis. We're in a huge deficit, and they're viewing Mark Carney as the guy who did it once before, who can get Canada out of a financial crisis, and they're viewing him as a guy who can do it once again where that is a very dangerous, very, very, very dangerous platform to run on, because a lot of normies, a lot of news media outlets, a lot of, these guys here, these news anchors think that that is good, that he is the guy who can fix this country's economic and financial state. That's very dangerous because everyone knows we're suffering financially. Canada, individual people, right? We're in a huge financial crisis. And having this guy step into the ring and say, well, I'm going to fix it the way I fixed it in 2008, that's dangerous right now. I know that Pierre has a huge lead, but we could also be looking at a October 2025 election, which there's a lot of runway to rebrand the party if Mark Carney wins.
More to Carney's time at the Bank of Canada than what I can outline here. And Canada's banking system itself, very tightly regulated, was already fairly resilient to what brought down the American banking system. But Carney's legacy after leaving was being credited as the man steering Canada away from the worst consequences of the global financial crisis. Canada was the only G7 country to avoid a major banking collapse, and it rebounded from its recession quicker than most. Expect his supporters to repeat this a lot. A big consideration for Liberals in search of a new leader will be how resilient that person will be to attack.
They're all Justin Trudeau. They're all just like Justin.
You're going to hear this question come up again and again about whether Carney is a Liberal insider or an outsider. Just ask Jon Stewart.
A wild hypothetical. Let's say the candidate wasn't part of the government. Let's say the candidate didn't have a lot of economic
outsider.
Let's say the candidate did deal with crises. Let's say the candidate had a plan to deal with the challenges in the here and now.
Sneaky, you're running as an outsider.
I am an outsider.
This is important because every Liberal knows the challenge for whomever replaces Justin Trudeau is to do everything they can to distance themselves from Justin Trudeau.
So you're going to be coming in there to say, I have not been in the government. I have worked in the financial markets. I understand all the things that go around trade.
If the system, if the people running the show wanted Chrystia Freeland or Karina Gould to be the leader of the Liberal Party and Canada's next Prime Minister, then she would be on The Daily Show. Then she would be getting all of these exclusive interviews. Chrystia Freeland has been the right-hand man, or in this case, woman, to Justin Trudeau. She laughed as she froze bank accounts. She has been putting Canadians in billions of dollars of deficits, 50% surplus over and over and over again. In a deficit, we're just going broke. So Chrystia Freeland cannot distance herself from Justin Trudeau. She would have to come out and say that she's a victim of abuse and that Trudeau manipulated her. And at that point, it's like, that would just be insane. Like, that would just break Canada. I don't even know what the reaction of that would be. Karina Gould isn't popular enough. What the hell has she done? She's a nobody. She's nothing. She's not going to win. It's designed for Mark Carney to be the next Liberal leader for the party. And I don't know if they're trying to delay government all the way till October 2025, sorry. And there's these weird talks that I've seen on social media of these powers at hand that can even delay the election from 2025 to 2026 even, which is insane. And that would give Mark Carney way more time to promote himself, to run, to do all these things. They have control of the entire system, the entire government right now. And that's what's so scary. If there were already an election, Pierre would be in. With the way that they're branding this and the way that they're going about this, it's going to be closer than what people think. I don't know if the Liberals are going to win and beat Pierre. Pierre has an instrumental lead. But seeing this right now, the powers at bay of putting Carney on the American talk shows and the fact that Carney's on our money, like, that's huge. That's huge. Might not be huge to me, might not be huge to you, but to normies out there, the masses that vote, that don't watch YouTube videos or just watch this mainstream media crap, that's huge, unfortunately.
I think in this case, the Liberals would benefit from having someone who has less of a connection to the Trudeau government. I think that when you see just how unpopular the Liberal government has been, that is an asset for him.
It's the same obstacle that hurt Kamala Harris's election campaign when she was asked,
would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind.
Not exactly a good look when voters are looking for a change candidate. So, is Mark Carney
just like Justin?
Or is he something else? Well, Carney is an outsider to the extent that he's never served in any elected role. He went to Harvard, did his postgrad at Oxford, spent 13 years at Goldman Sachs, and we know his basic story at the Bank of Canada and the Bank of England after that. So he's a finance guy, but really, he's not a complete outsider.
He was a sort of informal advisor. As things got worse for the Liberals, and as the rumors grew that he was interested in maybe being even prime minister one day, there was a real effort to bring him into the Liberal fold. So they said, well, hey, why don't you take on an advisory role? You can give us some advice officially advising the Liberal Party on economic matters.
It's this most...
But he hasn't been too close to the fire. He hasn't been too close to the fire to be considered in the masses. I'm just being objective here, folks. I'm by no means defending Mark Carney, but he doesn't carry the same political baggage that members of parliament do. I'm more mad at Karina Gould, at Jagmeet Singh, than I am Mark Carney because he has no voice in the House. That's just how it is. These people, their faces and their names are attached to voting yay or nay on certain policies. Fuck those people. Screw those politicians. Mark Carney doesn't. What policies has he put in the past 9 years? Right? He's been an advisor, sure, but his face and name isn't on the yays and nays that are voting on stuff. Right? So I'm not saying there's no reason to not be angry at Mark Carney for the past 9 years. His advising points have caused us harm, very likely, but he's not the one making the votes. He's not in the House, right? So it's a little bit more distance.
Most recent role that has conservatives questioning, to what extent was Mark Carney not just an advisor to Trudeau, but complicit in his governance?
I have been talking with Mark Carney for years now about getting him to join federal politics.
Mark Carney has not been an opponent to the Trudeau government or a critic of it, and he did take a position heading up an economic task force in the last few months, so he is not by any means disassociated from the Liberal government of Justin Trudeau.
And let's not forget, there is tension with the Chrystia Freeland Mark Carney story, right? We know that obviously it's very dramatic, the way she left government, that she was no longer going to be the finance minister. There has been reporting based on unnamed sources to suggest Mark Carney was going to slide into that role. And that is perhaps part of the reason Chrystia Freeland felt that she was being demoted and decided to walk away.
Those Liberals who support Carney, who would coronate him today if they could, their gamble is that Canadians will see Mark Carney as someone who brings something new to the table. But let's also be straight here. The uphill climb is real. The Liberals are drastically behind in every poll. Carney is entirely new to retail politics. He's never run an election campaign before. But if Carney does win the Liberal leadership, he becomes prime minister, even if it's only for a matter of days. And that would be a whole new plateau in his leap from the world of finance to the world of politics.
And it's possible that he could be prime minister for more than a few days, because if they continue to either prorogue or stall and don't go to the governor general for supply, then we could be looking at a October 2025 election. That would mean he'd be the prime minister for several months, an unelected prime minister. That's gotta be a first. But let me know down in the comments what you guys think about Mark Carney. Now we're taking a look at this breaking news story where a judge has agreed to expedite the legal challenge of Justin Trudeau's move to prorogue Parliament. Now, we're going to take a look at these articles and the documents, right? But we're not going to do it for too long because there's only so much to do and the video's already getting kind of lengthy. In the past, Stephen Harper pro-government 3-4 times. It was a lot, right? And proroguing the government can be used for different things. Government is unstable. Government is, there's all these standstills. Government is facing uncertainty. Prorogue government, figure it out. Just pause it for X amount of time. In this case with Justin Trudeau, there was clear in writing that a vote of non-confidence was going to take place, that all other party leaders, Pierre Poilievre, the Conservatives, the Bloc, and the NDP had all agreed in writing and verbally said it to the cameras that they don't have confidence in Justin Trudeau and that they were going to do a vote of non-confidence to trigger an early election. In this case, proroguing government in that state is kind of greasy. It's kind of greasy. It's still what prorogation is technically used for, but it's greasy because it was like, hey, this is coming to an end. And then there was this final buzzer beater Hail Mary by Justin Trudeau. And that's what's being challenged right now, was because we were in a state, if all party leaders didn't come out and say, we are going to vote non-confidence, we need an election right now. If it wasn't unanimous by all major party leaders, then maybe we wouldn't be facing this legal court case. But because that's not the case, because Justin Trudeau blocked an early election with his prorogation, which is still kind of technically what prorogation could be used for, but it hasn't been used for this desperately. That's what's being challenged right now. So let's take a look here at the CTV article. A court has agreed just yesterday to expedite its hearing of a legal challenge of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's move to prorogue Parliament. In a ruling late Saturday, Federal Court Chief Justice Paul Crampton said the court's usual rates on timelines will not apply, setting the stage for a hearing February 13th and 14th. In their application filed January 8th, Nova Scotia residents David McKinnon and Eris Lavranos seek an order setting aside Trudeau's decision to advise Governor General to exercise her power to prorogue Parliament until March 24th. Both the Nova Scotia residents were also request a declaration that this session of Parliament has not been prorogued. On January 6th, an emotional Trudeau announced his plans to resign as Prime Minister once a new Liberal Party leader has been chosen. He also said Simon had agreed to his request to prorogue Parliament, wiping the legislative slate clean and pausing meetings in the House of Commons and Senate. They argued Trudeau's decision effectively denies Parliament without reasonable justification that the ability to carry out its constitutional functions as a legislator. In particular, the application said prorogation prevents Parliament from dealing quickly and decisively with especially pressing issues, including the effects of Trump's threatened tariffs. So it's a perfect storm. I did forget to say that when I was just kind of going off the cuff there. It's a perfect storm. It's not only because of the fact that all party leaders were basically ready to call an election. Had prorogation not happened, we'd be facing an election like in a couple of days. That's phenomenal, but that's not our reality right now. It's also the looming threats of the tariffs that are 24 hours away. So our cost of living is about to go through the roof because of this. So that's a real economic threat. And at a time where we are facing a real, very tangible economic threat by the United States, we don't have a leader. We're prorogued, and we're prorogued for the next 2 months. 2 months and 4 days. That's insane. It's absolutely insane. So this court case, you can find more information about it from the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms, jccf.ca, and it'll bring you right here. The federal courts grant urgent hearing in case against decision to prorogue Parliament. The decision followed remarks from President-elect Trump that he intended to impose 25% tariffs on all imports to the United States. On January 7th, President-elect Trump further stated that his administration would consider the use of economic force to annex Canada. So we're facing real, tangible economic threats, a trade war. We don't have a leader, and that's what this court case is about. And so then you can actually go and read the federal documents from just a couple of days ago, from January 18th. So from yesterday, for crying out loud. This is incredible. When I first heard about this, I thought a different side. That's why I haven't made a video about it. I thought, hey, man, prorogation is used in these times, right? Stephen Harper prorogued government 3-4 times. It's not to, like, prorogation isn't to help everybody. It's to help the sitting party. But with giving it more thought, and as time has gone on and we get closer to the tariffs, I'm starting to realize that, yeah, no, I mean, I'm defending Trudeau's prorogation. I think it's absolutely disgusting. I wish he didn't did it. But if the shoe was on the other foot, and if it was a conservative party that was also doing this, I don't think people would be having similar outrage that they do with Trudeau. But the timing of it is what makes it so important. Economic war that's about to happen in 24 hours, that is not good. And so I hope this court case continues to be expedited, and it would be interesting to see what happens if we actually get a reversal of prorogation. What would happen to the Liberal Party leadership race? What would happen to Justin Trudeau? Would there be an election? What would happen to the tariffs? Right now, nobody has those answers because this is the first time we've ever navigated this, and there isn't exactly a rule book that shows, okay, well, if prorogation, let's just reverse prorogation and let's pick up where we left off. Everybody go back to where they were before things froze and then blow the whistle and the game continues. Nobody really knows how this is going to play out. But what we do know is things are about to get very, very interesting in Canada, even though things are prorogued. That is the end of the video, everybody. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to drop a like and subscribe to this channel. And I look forward to seeing you guys in another video. Bye for now.